Good evening, this is Martin Shafer. I'm very happy to be joined tonight by one of the great pop jazz singers of the American songdom, Miss Marilyn Maye, who opened recently for a 3-week engagement at Michael's Pub. Thanks for joining us tonight, Marilyn.
Hi, Marty. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you. Now, I understand it's about 10 or 12 years since you've appeared in a club in New York. Why have you deprived us for so long?
I've been working, and profitably, in the Middle West and in Texas, and that's what it's all about. We do, I have a group, and we work dinner theaters and concerts and clubs, not so many clubs anymore. So I'm very grateful to Michael's Pub for being alive and well and in New York City.
Well, you started out in clubs in, was it Kansas City and the Colony?
Yes, oh yes.
Yeah,
many years there.
Well, a few years ago.
Yes.
And do you find, though, over the years that the club audiences and the type of reception that you've gotten has changed between the Colony and...
The club scene has changed. There are, you know, the Fairmont hotels. We work many of the places that I went back to year after year after year. The Fairmont in Dallas and the Fairmont in San Francisco, and those places are no more. They're closed. The businessman's expense account is gone, and they're not as generous. The companies are not as generous with their spending habits, and I think it has made a big difference in our business because now the budgets have changed. They can't afford to bring us in.
What about the people? Do you find that audiences are more receptive now or less to the type of jazz that you perform? Are they more knowledgeable or less?
I think more, maybe the same. I think if they come to hear me, they probably are pretty well acquainted with what I do, and they come to hear. They do come to listen, and that's a joy. It's been many years since I've been in a club where I've had to fight any kind of noise or anything, but they're there to hear you these days. If they're paying that cover charge and that ticket price, they're there to listen.
Yeah, I know also that you've also done, I guess straight line or Broadway style recordings. You've done a recording of Cabaret. You did Jerry Herman's Hello Dolly, which I know some people in the business who I've spoken to say, oh, Marilyn Maye, oh, she did Hello Dolly, she did May, she did Follies. And I said, but she's a jazz singer. Do you find that, you know, that's sort of a problem being known as one or the other?
For many years I sang jazz, and Steve Allen knew I sang jazz and took me to his show as a jazz singer. Then when RCA found me, all of a sudden I was doing these Broadway show title songs. I call them my March Around the Breakfast Table title songs.
Well, they are.
and because I could belt, I was a belter. And so we gained success with that. Cabaret was my first hit record before the Broadway show opened.
Before Liza.
Before the movie. It was mine, you know.
Right.
And then Step to the Rear and Let a Winner Lead the Way from How Now Dow Jones became a commercial for me. It was a Lincoln Mercury commercial.
I remember that very well, yeah.
So all of those things put me in sort of a different bag. And but all the time I was doing that recording-wise. We were going right into clubs and doing what we did at Michael's Pub this week. So.
Which was really, congratulations, quite a wonderful set.
Thank you.
There was one segment of that I particularly loved. You do almost a medley, a seamless medley of songs like Billy Strayhorn's Lush Life and Something Cool, in which you develop a character going through a love affair. How did that compilation?
It sort of evolved, and it's a lady that I like, and there again, I think that's the dramatic part of the act. We do the take fives. I recorded take five on the first album. The first album was really an RCA, different, it was RCA, and wonderful who's who musicians, Mel Lewis and Richard Davis and Al Cohen and all these wonderful musicians on the album. But we did Hello Dolly, and we did Mame, and we did Make Someone Happy, and we did Take Five. So it was really a wide. Well, it was just a wide, complete, maybe just a complete look at the musical scene in America.
Yeah, well, you also, I mean, I've noticed also Cole Porter's Love for Sale, the standard, which I've heard many times in the club. And what you do, you go off on your own riff or vamp, and you develop it, and you make it something almost improvisational.
And she is the lady she's the hooker on the street. That's what it's about. I think each song is a vignette. I sort of approach every song as its own little playlet and its own little vignette, and you can and the lyric is very important to me. And if it's a good melody line and the lyric doesn't say much, I won't touch it anyway. But the lyric is important, and in all the material, it's
bottom
yeah
line.
yeah, I think so. I think what the story says is important to the audience.
Yeah, you managed to weave that for about 4 or 5 songs, which I really thought was unusual and
Thank you.
just lovely.
Thank you, Martin.
I also heard you are very fond of your London audiences, it seems. Not that there's anything wrong with New York, but do you feel that the people in Europe, the audiences there, are more familiar with jazz?
I think they study it, they get into it.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the other performers are very supportive of
Right.
a show, and they come and they sit and they dissect and they wait. When you're finished, I worked a jazz club there called the Canteen, very close to Covent
Sure.
Garden. And they sort of line up and wait to talk to you, and they want to dissect the arrangement. They want to know, why did you change keys on the fourth bar of the second chorus, and then you went back to another key at the beginning, the last stage.
Right.
And it's kind of an ego trip because they're very nice and very receptive, and that's a joy to be able to know that they've listened to you
And
so completely
and appreciate
and
you.
appreciate.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Marilyn.
Thank you, Marty. I'm pleased to be here.
It's a pleasure. And Marilyn Maye will be at Michael's Pub through the 17th. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And now let's hear a few words on theater from Brian Bradley.